Well, hello and welcome back to the Middlemen podcast. And it's a fight that I don't think anyone's particularly bothered about, to be honest, that we're going to kick things off today with Max. And it's Tyson Fury, Derek-Chisora 3, the trilogy that no one asked for yet, we now have. So let's start there. You have to go back 11 years for the first bout. Tyson Fury, the underdog, beating Derek-Chisora back in 2011. And then the second came 3 years later in 2014. Chisora retired in his corner at the end of the 10th round. And now we have another fight on the line. The WBC heavyweight belt is up for grabs at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's the trilogy. And does it excite me? Not particularly. A 34-year-old coming up against a 38-year-old. And we know Tyson Fury can beat Derek Chisora. He's done it twice before. And I don't think anyone wants to see this fight. I would have rathered, obviously, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua. I would have rathered an opponent that we know will put up a fight against Tyson Fury. But we know that's not going to happen because negotiations with AJ fell through. That potential super fight in November or December, not happening now. So instead, here's what we have. We have Derek Chisora, Tyson Fury's first fight since stopping Dillian White, and Chisora's first after he ended the 3-year losing streak by beating Kubrat Pulev in July. So maybe, Max, this was Fury's plan all along, but just what are your initial reactions, I suppose, as we kick off the podcast to this massive fight? Well,
Yeah,
massive fight. Well, it's not a massive fight, to this British fight.
yeah, we're starting it off, kicking it off with an irrelevant punch up, aren't we? But I guess we can call it. At the end of the day, it's a heavyweight world title fight. It is Tyson Fury in action, so that does have the elements of a huge fight. It's just the opponent that lets it down. And you mentioned something interesting there about this might have been Tyson's plan all along, and I think you're correct with that because listen, the negotiations with him and Joshua, it looked farcical from the start. You could see what Fury was doing on social media, and I think he's done this before, to be honest, where he's tried to fool the public into making it look like he's genuine about a fight, and then at the last second pulling the plug on it. But this time fans saw right through it and they realized, and there was not a good reception to him and his social media presence when we found out that the Joshua fight fell through. As soon as he said, I'm giving Joshua till now to sign the contract, everyone was like, you're like, it looks like you're looking for a reason to pull the plug on it. You're looking for something, because why would you give an unrealistic deadline to sign the contract for? It's just stupid. And he's not even the one dealing with these contracts. So it seemed like he wanted something a bit easier from the start, which is a bit strange, to be honest, because Tyson Fury might be polarizing, a bit outspoken. Some people might not get along with his character. I am a fan of his, and I would always say that he has never looked to take an easier way out. He's always, we know from his career, the highlight of his career, the comeback to become a 2-time heavyweight champion. We know that he doesn't take easy ways. He likes the challenge and he'll take the hard one. But I think he's got comfortable at the top, at the top of the heavyweight pile. Now he just wants to cherry pick. I think, as you said then with the two Derek Chisora fights, they become friends after that. And I think,
of course they do.
he
And
wants, go
it's 2
on.
million in the bank. It's 2 million in the bank for Chisora, and Fury makes a shit ton from selling out the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's a 60,000 seater ground. So yeah, you're completely right there, mates. It's like, it's completely different, but it's similar. When Mayweather fought Jake Paul, he says to Jake Paul, was it Logan Paul, whatever. He says to Logan Paul, I'll carry you for so and so rounds. You stay in the ring, you play your part, I'll play mine. We'll both come away with even more money than we have before. And that's exactly what's happening here, no?
Yeah, it's spot on. The only difference is that Floyd and Logan were fighting in an exhibition match that people understand and will be okay with it being a circus show. When it's one of the most prestigious titles in boxing, then you're making a joke out of it. And yeah, I think Tyson's just set up a little master plan to get him and his mate paid one more time before they sail off into the sunset with their dollars. Because I wouldn't be surprised if Fury doesn't fight after this. But what a horrible way to finish a legacy off. I was at his event in June, at his meet and greet event, and he was saying, "Oh, how many more times I got to get punched in the face before?"
What did you say to him, Max? What was the conversation you had?
I wasn't able to actually talk with him. I got a quick photo, but there were so many people to get through
Yeah.
that he was answering questions here and there. I was sat at the back just kind of soaking it all up. But yeah, somebody asked him about fighting again because at that point, earlier on in the year, he was retired because he had fought White and announced his retirement for the God knows how many how many times in his career he's done that. But he said, "Oh, how many times I got to get punched in the face before you guys are satisfied?" And I was like, "All right, fair enough, but keep that energy if you're going to say it. Stay retired.
Well,
Keep to your word."
also, he's a boxer. His job is to get punched in the face, or I guess to avoid being punched in the face. But primarily, a boxer will get punched in the face. And it's interesting that you say this is his route to retirement. But I also wonder, is this the warm-up fight for Alexander Usyk? Was Alexander Usyk the grand plan all along to eventually go and fight him? It wouldn't be the Rumble in the Jungle, but it would be one hell of a clash. And I know I've heard Tyson Fury talk down about Usyk, saying that he fought a bodybuilder with Anthony Joshua, who by the way, Tyson Fury is obsessed with. He's obsessed with Anthony Joshua. Every press conference, I watched the Chisora press conference. The whole thing was about AJ, who, in fairness, hasn't bit back in the last 24 hours. This is what Fury said about Joshua. I'll keep torturing him until he has the balls to fight me. And I'm pretty sure Chisora said that Tyson Fury wants to go and do naughty things in bed with Anthony Joshua was Derek Chisora's point of view. But back to the Usyk point, is that maybe something to consider as well? Is this a grand scheme to get Alexander Usyk in the ring?
Well, I would hope so. If this is a tune-up fight to actually have a genuinely competitive 50-50, I don't want to say 50-50, people might disagree with me on that, but, a highly competitive fight between the top two in that division, if that's what he's aiming towards further down the line, because I know Usyk is taking time out and plans on fighting midway through 2023. So if Tyson's fighting now to stay active and then wants Fury later, then I'll applaud that. Then I'll say, fair enough. You've pulled the wool over our eyes in a good way, instead of trying to pull the wool over our eyes in a horrible way in trying to set up the Joshua fight and never materializing it. He's done the public and the fans and journalists and everyone hopeful for that fight. He's done them wrong there. Do you know what I mean? So if that would be huge redemption for him if he comes back and actually manages to make the first undisputed fight since 1999 for the heavyweights, at least anyway, with Alexander Usyk. But I think there's complications even there. I question, because of everything that's happened in the AJ situation, I question if he does really want that Usyk fight, or if he's going to play that, how many times have I got to get hit in the head before you get satisfied card again? So, this guy's on and off, and I really can't trust a word he says nowadays. I'm really not sure what his intentions are. But even saying that, you've got Deontay Wilder versus Andy Ruiz Jr. trying to be set up by the WBC to make a number one mandatory for Tyson Fury's bout as well. So even after this Derek Chisora fight, even if Fury is true to his word, announces that he wants to fight Usyk and keeps to that, there's still complications that are out of his control that will be sorted out with the WBC. So even then there's problems. So I can't really see it happening, but I hope for the love of the sport that it really does.
Would you rather see Usyk, Deontay Wilder, or Usyk, Tyson Fury? And what opponent does Alexander Usyk have a better chance of beating? Deontay Wilder, who we saw destroyed his opponent, was it Saturday night, or it might have been the Saturday night before? They all blur into one in the first round with his knockout power and his sensational power. It's astonishing. Or Tyson Fury, who we all know with his feet is the best in the business. He's an unbelievable boxer and one of the best of his generation, if not of all time. So if you're Alexander Usyk and you're thinking about potential fights and that's what's keeping you up at night, do you go Wilder? Do you go Fury?
I'll tell you what, and this is not to compare the two to the boxers that I'm going to compare them with now. I'm not saying that this is what they're like, but I'm just going off the style and situation we have here with Wilder or Fury for Usyk's opponents. So you have the hardest hitting puncher potentially in boxing history, but definitely pound for pound out of all current boxers right now in Deontay Wilder, or you have the most skillful heavyweight in Tyson Fury. Now, this might lead into a nice segue for our next topic, but I would say who who would win out of a fight between or who has won out of Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. You got Savannah Marshall, the hardest hitting woman potentially in history, but definitely out of the current and active women, or you have the most skillful in Clarissa Shields. And look who prevailed on Saturday. And I think that is who would prevail, and that is who would be the harder challenge. I think Tyson Fury would be the harder challenge because although Wilder can switch you off like that, there are ways around him. There are bigger flaws to his game than there are with Fury's. So, and Usyk has the movement and he has all the skills to get away from that right hand. I'm not saying he can do it for 12 rounds. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed win for Usyk. I think obviously the danger is always present, is ever present with Deontay Wilder, and is as long as his right hand is on him, is literally attached to his shoulder, then he has a chance, a literal puncher's chance. But Fury has more, and I think, and to be honest, I would love to see, Deontay Wilder's in a very entertaining boxer, so he's going to be an entertaining fight. So I'd love to see him fight Usyk. But in terms of making this sport progressive and, making this a unified thing again and stopping this fragmentation that's going on in boxing, we need Fury versus Usyk. We need these bouts to become undisputed. We need one champion. I'm sick and tired. It's been my whole life that the most revered division in boxing, the heavyweight division, has been fragmented. I'm sick of it. And I want one champion. And now there is a chance to do that as early as next year. So let's make it happen. And I think it would be a much harder fight for Usyk as well.
It's what everyone wants to see. It's happened in female boxing. It's happened with Devin Haney. But obviously we're talking heavyweight boxing, and that is what everyone wants to see. We'll get on to Devin Haney later. And like you said, diversity in boxing and making strives for the sport in absolutely the right way. Two of the very best women I've ever seen put on a pair of gloves, Clarissa Shields and Savannah Marshall. And what a fight that was. Here's what it sounded like at the end. And if you're listening on YouTube, then go back and watch it. If you're listening on the podcast, then just have a listen to this. So that was over 2 million viewers tuning in to watch Clarissa Shields beating Savannah Marshall, and that was the commentary there. And it was the first ever all-female boxing event televised in the UK and Ireland. I spoke to Derby County's women's manager, Sam Griffith, the day after this fight, and we were just catching up on the sidelines before Nottingham Forest Derby County, which Derby were woeful in, and they lost 3-1. So maybe our conversation before the game didn't help that. But what Sam said was, she said that it is unbelievable to look at women's sport right now and to look at what's happening to it. And actually, at the City Ground, at a Premier League stadium for this derby that I covered for Radio Derby, they broke the Women's National League North attendance record, 5,000 people to watch football in the women's sport that isn't even at the top level. So if you haven't seen it, go back and watch Clarissa Shields in the ring walk was just so relaxed. It was an absorbing fight. You couldn't get enough of it. It was an epic contest at the O2. And I said it last week, boxing's reputation had taken a blow. We were talking about it with Conor Benn, and you said that Eddie Hearn's reputation has taken a blow. And I went one step further and I said, actually, I think boxing's been a bit damaged. And I think these two have put boxing back where it belongs, or have just put in the first kind of foundations to do that. So it was a rearranged fight worth waiting for, Max.
Most definitely. It is a shame we couldn't get it sooner. As fans, we are naturally impatient, but it was worth the wait. My God, it was worth the wait. As you said, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about, obviously, the Conor Benn situation was very fresh at the time, and we said, right, although that is what it is, and, boxing has taken the kids would say, a fat L on this one. We do have things to look forward to, and we have the positive side of it, and we look towards these fights that happened on the weekend. And it was just great to see, what I should be seeing on the weekend, rather than negative comments about the sport, just positivity and even new fans being brought in because of these fights. We had Shields Marshall, Haney Kambosos, and Waldo Helenius all on the same night. Huge displays of knockouts, and then displays of just beautiful boxing excellence, technical skill, and ring IQ. So it had everything that weekend, which we are so lucky for. And yeah, I don't think it will repair what has been done. And, the massive hole in boxing, well, one of the massive holes in boxing in terms of drug testing, but it was a good recovery, and it was a nice bounce back, and is what the fans needed. And yeah, history in the making with the women. I would like to say I prefer Taylor Serrano, but it's really
Why?
tough. I I don't prefer smaller weights. Maybe I do. I don't know. I just think
He
for
does. He
me the
does.
output. Um, I'll actually have to check the stats because I don't want to be saying, the lighter girls threw way more punches and they made it like a bit more scintillating in that sense, because I might be wrong.
They're a
But
lot quicker. As a rule of thumm, the lighter you go down in the divisions, the quicker the boxing.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, I think you can make that point.
But the suspense and the intensity was just as present in Shields Marshall, and it was just a fantastic fight. I'm not gonna lie, I was speaking to my mate about this the other day. Shout out to Leon. I don't think Marshall's style is right. I don't like that Peter Fury style, especially against a unbelievable counter puncher like Shields. To be honest, whatever whatever style Marshall went out with on that day, she was not going to beat Shields. She gave it her best. She showed a lot of heart, but I think even in the most competitive rounds, Shields still won convincingly. Um, Obviously, I give about 1 or 2 to Marshall. I do have to watch it back because I only did watch it live, but from what I can remember, give 1 or 2 to Marshall. I think even her best work that won her rounds, it was smothered. It wasn't
The
clean.
last round, they went toe to toe in the last round, right at the end. That was a great scrap.
Yeah, and shout out to Shields for inviting that and allowing that to happen, saying, "Look, this is the closing moments of the fight. The fans are gonna love this part." And some fighters would just stay smart, stay
Yeah,
out the way of danger, and just like finish strong. But she's like,
put
"All
the
right,
ball in the corner,
yeah." Even if
shield it.
she risked a potential knockdown there because she knows, she definitely found out how hard Marshall can punch, and she still took it on. So shout out to her for that. Is just the confidence. You're talking about the ring walk. It's just that confidence. She
Unreal.
has.
The dance routine, the swagger walking up to the ring. She looked like just didn't have a weight on her shoulders, and I don't think I've ever seen a ring walk like that. I think every time I've seen a ring walk, I saw Anthony Joshua Klitschko live, and Anthony Joshua going on that platform at Wembley, and he looked so nervous, like
Yeah,
so unbelievably nervous. And you could tell however much confidence he was trying to kind of show the world, he was nervous. But that ring walk on Saturday night was something else.
yeah, and what it reminded me of, for any UFC fans or MMA heads out there, was Israel Adesanya's walkout. I think it was in the first Robert Whittaker fight. It might have been his either his first world title shot or his first defense of the world title. And I swear that boy was doing backflips and stuff. Like, to come out in the most important night of your life, yeah, for what you've trained for since being a young child, to go out
What, and
there and
risk breaking
put
your
some
neck on a
shapes
backflip
on. What's that?
and risk breaking your neck on a backflip.
That would be me. That sounds like my luck. So luckily that didn't happen to Adesanya, and both Shields and him went out to get the win. But I think that's almost a bit of foreshadowing nowadays. If you see someone going out there pulling all the dance moves off and it's the fight of their career, probably expect them to win. But also it might be nice to see them get humbled as well, because some people look like, this guy's too confident. This other dude needs to knock him out.
It's Clarissa the Goat. That's what she calls herself. But have you ever seen anyone better? Katie Taylor, I mean, I suppose is pound for pound a challenger for the greatest of all time. I mean, just tell me what you think on that, because I know you're such an advocate for women's boxing.
Yeah, even from when I started reporting on it, interviewing Terry Harper, like just under 2 years ago
That
now.
was your first big interview, right?
Yeah. I was, mate, I was stressing beforehand, like, oh my God, I'm interviewing a world champion. Um, but yeah, even seeing it progress from there on to see, well, even speaking of Terry, to see her come back at about 3 or 4 weight divisions heavier than her first world title she won a division in, to come back and then become 2-time is great for her journey. But yeah, to see the two biggest fights in women's boxing history occur since then is just fantastic. And I think I ran a poll on my socials to see if Taylor or Shields is the GOAT. And I'm pretty sure, I'm not just saying this for the sake of the conversation, but I am pretty sure it did finish 50-50. So we'll need a third opinion on that, or however many opinions it got. We'll need the odd one to sway it one way. But I think there's cases for both of them. Um, what I will say about it is Claressa likes to brag about, not brag, but like, talk about her amateur experience and her amateur pedigree. I think she's a 2-time gold medalist. I think the only one to
Some
beat.
revenge as well. She lost to Marshall in the amateurs, right? So that
Yeah.
was the revenge that she's been waiting all of these years to get her hands on.
Yeah, exactly. And the only problem with that, with her bigging up her amateur career, is or like her Olympic career at least, is if Katie Taylor didn't exist and didn't do what she did for women's boxing, Claressa wouldn't be getting medals. Katie Taylor put the foundations in place, boxed in front of the International Olympic Committee to prove that women's boxing has a place in the Olympics. So she walked, boxed, and achieved just so Claressa could go on years after and actually make her achievement. So, I feel like Katie Taylor really is like the godmother of women's boxing. So it's hard to knock her, but also it is undisputed, undeniable, and undebatable what Claressa has accomplished. The only 3 times undisputed, or 3-weight undisputed women's champion, shall I say. It's just crazy. And to go and get a third on last Saturday night, even like her style as well, she's really looking like the Floyd of women's boxing, I can't lie.
Well, you speak of the Floyd of women's boxing. I saw a headline this week that compared Devin Haney to Floyd Mayweather. So that's quite a nice transition. Just very quickly, though, I think we'll get a rematch of Shields Marshall in the summer, is what I've been reading. So let's hope so. It'll be a blockbuster fight, and hopefully it lives up to the expectations that they've set for themselves. But we'll go on to Devin Haney, who also fought last weekend. And we didn't touch on this last week because we didn't have a podcast. I was busy gallivanting in America and doing a load of stuff out there. But back in the UK, this fight took place in Australia against George Kambosos Jr. And I don't know if you can say it was a surprise or not, but Devin Haney won very, very comfortably. Not to say George Kambosos didn't fight well. Of course, he did. He can come out with his head held high, picked up a lot of cuts, bruises, and scrapes. But I think you have to admire and take your hat off to Devin Haney. His ability to mix it up is what really impressed me. Won the first of those 2 fights with the jab, the left jab, and that proved the difference. And then the display of versatility last week, where I can watch a boxer switch it up so easily and use his right hand to help win a fight. It's like watching a great, which I think Devin Haney undoubtedly is. He won the fight 118 to 109 by one judge, and then 118 110 by the other 2. So what a fight! 2 straight losses now for George. Where does his future lie? That's a big question. Does he retire now? I hope he doesn't. But what a fight that was, Max.
I'm just curious, Noah. Would have you been able to see that normal time out in Chicago? Like, how does the time zones work there? Because I feel like Australia is like one side of us and like down, and then America is like the other way. But obviously, this whole world's a circle, so it's closer than I imagined. But what are the time zones like? Because I think there's like 8 hours between us and Chicago. I might even be wrong with that. I'm so out of touch with.
He's hanging me out to dry. Okay, I didn't watch that fight live, I watched that fight when I got back to the UK. Max, stop it. Yeah, I've no idea what the time zone is between Australia and Chicago because I didn't watch it live, but I watched it back, and the difference between Chicago and the UK is 6 hours. So there's some sort of answer to your question, but I watched it. That's the most important thing.
I'll let you off, Noah. I
Thanks,
didn't
man.
even watch it in live time as well, and obviously, with your missus out there, you were distracted, man. I'll
It's
allow it, but
distracting you.
every time
Yeah,
you're in the
go out
UK,
there.
no excuses, no excuses.
Okay, no excuses. Right, that my schooling from Max Taylor, who you should go and follow and add. Go actually, don't go and follow him. Max Taylor Sportsgram. Leave it well alone. Load of
Block
rubbish. You
it,
don't want to hear it.
report it.
But go on, Max. What did you think?
Yeah, no, just quickly, it was Devin Haney. I think he's just showing more levels to his game with every fight. I think I'm gonna go out and say it. Maybe a little more relevant, but the rematch with Kambosos is there and around just as irrelevant as the trilogy between Chisora and Fury because no one needed to see that again. There was no inclination that Kambosos could have won that fight from the first fight. We knew that it was just not going to happen. But obviously, rematch clauses and stuff. Kambosos, I guess you could say he deserved it, but he didn't even make one title defense, which is hard to do when you're fighting a division like the lightweights when there's so much competition there and future greats, as you said, like Devin Haney, to become undisputed and then defend it in the manner that he does, in the convincing way he does. I can't wait to see him get in there with other top guys now, higher level guys, your Shakur Stevensons, your Ryan Garcias, Tank Davis, Lomachenko. The list goes on. So I don't want to, I don't want to just say to Haney, oh yeah, that was a good win, but fight someone else. Obviously, you gotta understand that was elite level boxing that he was showing there, and yeah, I can't wait to see him get in there with one of those top six.
And you mentioned Lomachenko there, and obviously big headlines surrounding him at the moment because he's fighting again on Saturday night for the first time in quite a long time. The 34-year-old stepping into the ring with a record of 16 wins, 2 losses, and no draws. And 11 of those wins coming by knockout. He takes on Jermaine Ortiz at MSG on Saturday night. And the stats suggest that actually Southpaw Lomachenko has the advantage in power over Ortiz, a 69% knockout percentage over Ortiz's 50. Loma, obviously, famously beaten by Teofimo Lopez in October 2020, unanimous decision in that one. And that was for the WBA Super World Lightweight, along with the IBF and WBO as well. He most recently beat Richard Comey in New York last December, but that's still a long time. He's been out of the ring, Max.
Is that last December?
That was December 2021. Yeah, long time.
I know, like I'm seeing on Twitter a lot recently that like fighters getting criticized for their inactivity, and I'm like, there are names coming up that I'm like, no, they fought recently, like they fought,
Yeah,
and I look back and it was like last year.
it's crazy.
It's going too fast, man. It's going way too fast. But yes, always a pleasure to watch Vasily Lomachenko in action. And as we just come from talking about Haney as well, it's such a fight I want to see down the line. I think if Lomachenko, which he should do, win inside the distance this weekend in convincing style, I think he definitely should be next in line for Haney's titles as a chance, out of respect for what he's done in the division in the last 8 to 9 years. That man, if there's anyone that deserves a title shot for all the titles, it is Lomachenko. So it would be really interesting to see, especially because there's this whole narrative going on about like with the Ring Magazine's inclusion, how they haven't put Haney in the top 10, which they might want to check now after his win against Kambosos for the second time. But there's this whole
That's
debate going on
astonishing.
about.
That is astonishing, though, that he didn't make the top 10. I mean, if he doesn't make the 10, then you have to question who else does. Because I don't think there are many, if not maybe this is controversial, any better at that level than Devin Haney.
I think the problem is there's a lot of different factors with pound for pound. I'd say if pound for pound was just based on skill, then Haney would be probably about top 5. But the fact it includes what weights you've traversed at,
Oh, was so this was the pound
Haney,
for pound list, was it?
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah, the
not
weight pound for
right,
pound list.
got it. Okay, pound for pound, and that's a different story. I thought you were talking about in the lightweights. Okay,
Oh,
right.
yeah, no, no.
I was gonna
Of
say,
course,
how does Haney
yeah.
not make the top 10? Completely different story. All right.
Yeah, yeah. This is across all weights and divisions. Like, given just going off titles, Haney's top dog right now.
Yeah.
He is number one. So yeah, he's at least number 1 or 2, but someone has to come and knock him off his perch if they want to, if they disagree and think otherwise. So Lomachenko, just in case you found this podcast by any chance, do you want to fight Devin Haney for us?
In case you're listening, Lama, let us know. Drop a comment in the comment section or just drop myself or Max a message on Instagram. And Lama, you're fighting a guy who's never lost. Jermaine Ortiz makes his way to the ring with an unblemished record of 16 wins and a draw, 8 wins by knockout. He's fought twice this year, Ortiz. If you cast your mind back to beating Jamal Herring, who is retired now, or even earlier, I think in February he beat Nahir Albright. So listen, the guy's been active and the guy's been winning.
Yeah, he's done what he has to do in his career, beating people that's in front of him, taking a step up in competition against Herring, albeit Jamal was past his prime, but he's done what he's needed to do. He's climbed the rankings and he's got a big payday now and a legendary name in boxing. So I can't see him winning it, but there's no shame in losing it for sure.
No, for sure.
It'll be career defining for Ortiz on Saturday. But yeah, I think Lomachenko just needs to continue this, keep up his hot streak, because I think he bounced back fantastically after the Lopez loss. Like Ortiz has done, he'd done the same thing. Had top people in front of him. People like to call it Teofimo Lopez's leftovers or whatever, but he's just beaten guys that were knocking around the top rank to reestablish himself up there, and I think he's done that with the win over Ortiz. Then I think we can put this Haney Lomachenko pound for pound debate to bed and have them fight out for all the marbles in lightweight.
Yeah, great fight for both. For Lomachenko, it's a stepping stone, and for Ortiz, like you said, it's a chance to get in with one of the best ever in boxing. And this week, Liverpool, your team, are playing Derby County, who are the team I work very closely with, and they're playing each other in the EFL Cup in November. And I've been speaking to loads of kind of ex-Derby players who have played against Liverpool and players who in their careers perhaps didn't achieve as much as those against them when they played at Anfield. It was amazing. I spoke to Craig Fagan, who was a Derby player, played like 32 times for Derby. So he's not a big name unless you're a Derby County fan. Legend. Yeah. But he played at Anfield, and it's the same thing. It's like this guy, no matter what he achieved in his career, honestly, I don't know how much else, what else he achieved in his career. But he played at Anfield, and that's the same for Ortiz. He fought Lomachenko, he will be fighting Lomachenko. So it's a win for him, and it's a win for Loma. And I don't know if it's going to be a blockbuster, but it should be a comfortable night of work for Lomachenko. And that rounds us off, really. We've got that fight on the weekend. Some massive fights over the previous couple of weeks with the women in action and Devin Haney as well. And then obviously the news that Tyson Fury will take on Fury-Chisora in December at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which no one wants to see. No one wants to see it. It's astonishing that this is the top level of British boxing, and no one cares less about this fight. But there you go. It's happening, and there's nothing the middlemen can do about it apart from moan and complain, which we will. But that's about it from us. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching and subscribing and everything else you do. And we'll be back next week.
Yeah. As per every week, guys, we appreciate your interaction, listening to us ramble on, as Noah said, moan and complain at times at the state of the sport we love. But yeah, really, really great chat again about, a nice positive aspect of boxing this time. And stay tuned, because I feel like we say this every week and it doesn't actually happen, but I promise you next week we do have someone on, someone different, someone very outspoken, someone entertaining, someone whose opinion I love to hear about, whether I agree or disagree. He's great. So, stay tuned for that. Very exciting conversation coming next week. And yeah, we'll have a lot more to talk about then. So thank you guys once again. Like, comment, subscribe, stream, download, do this, do that. But most of all, have a great weekend. Enjoy the sport. I hope you enjoy it as much as we do. Goodbye.